Merkel Media.
Hey everyone, before we get into this week's show, I just want to remind you, I've been talking about it a lot, but I am moving to Tennessee this month in April, which means that if there's an issue with the show, if a show doesn't show up on time, or if there's something wrong with the audio and it's not being fixed, that's why, because I'm out of office. I may not even have internet when I get to the new house right away, so in order to fix the things, may not be an actual option. So just bear with me, have some patience. I don't think there's going to be any issues or hiccups this month, but if there is a hiccup, that's why, because I'm moving to Tennessee and I literally don't have internet to even fix it if I wanted to. So just some patience just in case there's an issue, but I don't think there will be. Let's get to this week's show.
This was all circulating around the base that a giant had been killed, but no one was supposed to talk about it.
I saw 3 long bony fingers reach up underneath the door, curl up to grab it, and then disappear.
When he came over to me, dude, he slithered over to me.
And this giant comes out of the cave and they're all frozen. And he starts running and firing at this giant. Well, the giant moves. He's got a spear in one hand and he's running really fast and spears Dan and holds him up like this. Somebody yells, shoot him in the face, shoot him in the face. They basically decapitate him.
Got closer. When he got about 15 yards away from me, I raised that 12 gauge and I blowed his head off.
I feel something pulling at my leg, and I look over and there are 2 small gray entities pulling at me. And they're literally, I'm getting pulled off the bed.
I reached my hand into this bush and I touched air. Couldn't breathe and I couldn't move because I know I'm seeing a monster.
Yeah. Welcome to the show, everybody. You're listening to The Confessionals. I'm your host, Tony Merkel. Thanks for being here. If you have a crazy, wild experience you want to share with me on the show, go ahead and shoot me an email. My email address is theconfessionals@theconfessionalspodcast.com. That's theconfessionals@theconfessionalspodcast.com. Or go to the website, theconfessionalspodcast.com. Hit the contact section. You can reach me that way as well. Either way works for me. Just get a hold of me. And if you want more shows on a weekly basis, we drop a bonus member show on Thursdays on the website and the Castos app. Plus, you get the Tuesday shows ad-free and access to overtime episodes. If that interests you, go to theconfessionalspodcast.com, hit the join button, and become a member today. We got Creed back in studio. Creed, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Tony.
Thanks for coming back in. We are talking about our trip again, right?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, so why don't we talk about what it's called? Because I called it Stanley when I had COVID, and you got a bunch of people calling about Stanley Hotel. Just bear with me, guys. I had COVID when I was doing that recording for the announcement, and I don't even remember recording the announcement. I was barely holding it together, and people were asking me about the Stanley, and you just said that some people were calling, right?
They did. They called and asked about the Stanley.
and you were like, I don't know why they're saying Stanley. Like, I might have something to do with that.
I figured it was a Shanley Stanley.
Yeah,
it sounds the same.
That's what I thought too when I was recording. Apparently. So we're going to the Shanley.
We're going to the Shanley. The Shanley is this really cool old hotel. It's in New York. It's not the Stanley in Colorado.
Yeah.
It's the Shanley in New York. It was built in 1845. It's always been a hotel. But it gets its name from its most famous owner, who was an Irish immigrant named James Shanley. And he lived there with his wife. They owned the hotel from about the early 20th century to the middle of the 20th century. They had their children there. Most of their children tragically died when they were very young, infants. And so we have a lot of hauntings in the Shanley. And it is a really cool old hotel like the Burnbrae, where we went to last year with a group of people.
Yeah.
That was actually built as a private residence, became a hotel. This has always been a hotel. There's been guests in and out. It's got a long storied history. It was a speakeasy during the Prohibition era. Some gangster activity. It was a place, in New York in the Catskills where people would go and escape from the city. And sometimes their escape was permanent. And is now more permanent because it is a very, very haunted hotel.
Yeah.
The owner, when we go, we have to sign releases. So that, when we're super duper haunted and streaking out of there at 3 o'clock in the morning,
they can't
we're
get
not
sued.
Gonna sue him. We're not going to sue him. But it is a really very haunted place, very active, and we get to spend the night there. We'll have a professionally led ghost hunt from 7 to 10 p.m. And then we get to spend the night there at the Shanley.
See, okay, so 7 to 10 p.m. we're doing a professionally led ghost hunt, and like I'm like those are the baby hours, by the way, guys. So like the real stuff's gonna kick off when they leave, when the professionals leave. All of a sudden, you're left there alone, that's when the stuff kicks off. I mean, people are gonna be waiting for the 3 a.m. witching hour, and that's when their bed's gonna wind up on your ceiling.
Absolutely, there's so many reports of hauntings there. Infants playing in the hallway. An old couple playing chess that you can see from outside.
Really?
If you're outside, you look in, one of the ground floor windows. There's just an enormous number of haunted reportings over the last century and a half. Since its inception, it burned down in 1895. It was rebuilt. People have, died there and still remain residents. And it's such a cool place.
Yeah, and so like we did the Burn Bray last year, and people freaking loved that. And this is something that is, from what it sounds like, more haunted. Mm-hmm. And like I hear this, and when you talk about the release form, I'm like, challenge accepted. I'm not like it's whenever I hear stuff like that, the line from the Ghostbusters, I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
That's right.
I'm ready to rock.
No, we're gonna party with the ghosts.
Yeah, like let's see what happens and stuff. And people by now, from hearing this and stuff, I mean, either I would say this is probably going to release the week that I'm doing the public release of the documentary, The Expedition Dogman. Mm-hmm. And so people are going to see, me out in the woods looking for this monster in the woods. Listen, I'm about to go in the centralized location, the Shanley Hotel in New York.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And if you go to Tony's website, we have both audio and video recording of our time at Burn Bray, and there's great EVPs, orbs, all kinds of stuff on there that people experienced. Not everyone had, I think, a real, supernatural experience, but there were some people that had the real deal. Mm-hmm. And the video, audio illustrate that. From the Burn Bray, Shanley's more haunted than that. So I think that if you're interested in ghosts, if you want a supernatural experience, this is definitely the trip to go on. I think there's no doubt that we'll have, some experiences.
So like there's a portion of the audience that listens to this show because they want to hear about the stuff, but they don't want to go through it. Right. Mm-hmm. They're catching their host at a time in his life where he's transitioning into hunting the legends I've heard about on the show. And so like I'm in this mode of, hey, let's see it. Put up or shut up now. Let's go and see it now. Like I've been hearing about this stuff for so long now. Like I'm like, okay, if it's that easy to catch, let's go check it out.
Get it.
So I'm kind of like in this mindset right now. It's just like, let me see it. It's not the let me see it to believe it. It's the let me see it. I've been hearing about this stuff for so long. Let me freaking see it now.
That's right. If you're just listening to the show and you love supernatural stuff, but you're not sure, this is a good experience. You're with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's it's kind of a controlled place. So, the ghosts are not vicious at the Shanley, but they're present. So it's a good introduction, I think, to, this supernatural experience where it's not going to be terrifying.
Yeah.
But you will feel. I think you will feel things.
Don't be scared.
Yeah.
Don't be scared.
Yeah.
I might be a little scared in a moment, but right now I'm trying to talk tough. So
yeah, it's fun, and we had a great time at the Burn Bray. I think everyone experienced. We had a couple people from the Burn Bray, Donnie and Laura, that went. They loved it. They signed right up for this trip, and it'll be a good experience. And so we'll be at the Shanley. That's our overnight experience. We'll have dinner there. We'll have breakfast there. But we have, other stuff that we're doing. So we'll leave from Newark, and we head up to, just outside of Sleepy Hollow. Mm-hmm. There's a legend of Huldah the Witch, and, we're going to go, kind of look around, that area. We'll see her tombstone. Yeah. We'll hike out to Spook Rock, and, the shack where she lived. It's mysteriously in great condition. And, if there's any damage, it gets rebuilt. Nobody's really sure.
Nobody knows?
No. Nope.
Oh, jeez.
So that'll be a pretty cool ride up, as we'll see. We'll actually have lunch in Sleepy Hollow. So we'll get a chance to check out the town of Sleepy Hollow itself. So that's, and then we'll get to, of course, we'll stop on the way in New Paltz at a place called the Historic Huguenot Street, settled by French Huguenots in the 1700s, and pretty haunted. I think there's still a lot of the Huguenots around in that vicinity. So we'll have a great tour of Huguenot Street, and we'll hear all of the storied supernatural past and present.
So, all right, Sleepy Hollow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this where the Headless Horseman legend comes from?
Yeah.
Okay. So when we talked about this before, I didn't connect those dots until Lindsay told me, because I'm a little stupid. So, I'm kidding. Don't email me saying, Tony, you're not stupid. You gotta stop saying. I know. I'm just kidding around. Tongue in cheek.
Not stupid.
But I didn't connect the dots, and when she said that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. Like I got more excited.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking about possibly doing like a Sleepy Hollow short little story or something with the YouTube channel. Maybe I'll put up on the podcast as well, where I kind of go into the story, the Headless Horseman and the history behind it and all that stuff. But I mean, I remember hearing those stories in elementary school. I don't know if they still do that kind of stuff in elementary school, but I remember hearing those stories, and
me too.
It's just like, I just remember being fascinated by that story. I'm like, wow, what if that was true? And now we're going to go into the location.
We're going to check it out. And there's two great cemeteries in Sleepy Hollow. Washington Irving, who wrote the tale, is buried there.
Really?
Yeah. And the old Dutch church is where the grave of Hulda the Witch is recognized. It's probably not her actual grave, but there's really cool places, to see and to experience while we're there in Sleepy Hollow.
And Hulda the Witch is the one that has the shack that's mysteriously in great condition.
Exactly right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And on the way back, so once we're done, at our experience with the Shanley, the next day, we'll drop back down as we come back down to Newark, and we'll stop at Witch's Hole State Forest. We'll take a look at Silvio's Villa, an 18th century inn, home to travelers and some family and some visible orbs, faint shouting, apparently a coat rack that was found furiously spinning in a closet at one point. And we'll have lunch there, and we'll get to hear the tales of the haunting.
Nice.
Yeah, Silvio's Villa.
And the name of the forest is what?
The Witch's Hole State Forest.
The Witch's Hole State Forest. That's in what, New York?
It's in New York, yep.
The Witch's Hole State Forest.
It's in the Catskills.
So there's a reason why they call things what they call them, right? And so whenever I come across a road that says Devil's Road, usually don't go down it, right?
That's right. That's right. I think there's a road like that what's the one in New Jersey that we found? It's something where I can't think of it right now, but it's really cool. People see ghosts there all the time, and there's a zillion roads like that. But this is a really, it's a really, our focus on this trip is haunted happenings. And we'll get to experience, tales, and we'll experience the ghosts, I think, themselves at the Shanley Hotel. It's cool. Yeah. It's very cool.
Wow. So I'm excited.
Yeah. It's going to be great. If you want to see what one of these trips is kind of like, at least the ghost hunt part, check out the video. It's, it's pretty long, but it illustrates EVPs and orbs and, things happening, even things that, when we were there, we heard, but then on the video and the audio, there's things that were happening that nobody heard at the time, that we came across later. And so, the spirits are around us, even if we're not quite aware of them at that moment. So it's really cool.
I think people are going to really like this trip, and I know I am. And so if they want that information and stuff, what can they do? Can they email you, call you, what?
Yeah, so just email us at creed@educatedwanderer.com, or you can telephone us at 973-513-9001. You can check out our website, educatedwanderer.com. The details of the trip are there, but you can call us, email us, and we'll be happy to send them to you. We'll be happy to talk through the whole experience with you, what to expect. The price of the trip includes, from the time you get on the bus with us to the time we drop you back off, it includes the food and everything else that we're doing.
Yeah.
So there's no other reason that you'll have to reach into your pocket during that time. We can also help you get there, get to Newark. If you are, coming from far away, we run tours all the time, not just haunted tours. So we're very good at helping people with that kind of stuff, the logistics.
I don't know if we mentioned the date. Like, we changed the date, and I'm moving to Tennessee mid-April, and it was just, hectic.
Yeah.
And so like we're just trying to make sure that I'm actually on the trip.
Yeah.
So
Pretty important. Pretty important.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm moving from Philadelphia to Tennessee, East Tennessee, mid-April. And so we just moved this date so that, I can actually move my family without having to be in New York.
Come back to New York.
If I could clone myself, maybe one day the technology will be there. Some argue it's right there now, but that's another conversation.
Maybe you could divest yourself of your spirit to go on the
right.
tour.
Yeah, I just got to learn how to do the out of body experience thing.
That's
so
right.
you guys can have the ghost of Tony on the trip while my family is in Tennessee with me, probably laying in a bed just dead or something.
Right. If only we could be that efficient.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the date of the trip is July 1st to the 2nd.
Okay.
Overnight. We leave early in the morning and, we get back sort of later in the afternoon the following day.
Cool.
Yeah. It's going to be such an awesome experience,
yeah.
I think. And, when you're done, the next morning, if you've had some experiences and I think you want to talk to Tony about them, I think the intent is he'll take those experiences and make a show out of it. Yeah. So you actually be on the show.
Yeah. We didn't, I kind of didn't have the proper, I guess I just the first time around I wanted to do that and just didn't kind of come through with everything. But the idea is that we can kind of make a show out of it, so we can have somebody come on and like if you had like a weird experience and stuff, and it's like 5 minutes of whatever, it's fine because I'm trying to basically do a compilation of everybody's experiences, whether you had an experience or you didn't have experience. Just like what do you think of the trip and kind of have some fun with that. So if you guys are interested, go ahead and contact Creed and Jen at educatedwanderer.com. The website or the email is creed@educatedwanderer.com, and the phone number is, I'm not that good.
No, almost good. 973-513-9001. We'll be happy to chat with you about the trip and everything in between.
And lastly, what is the price of the trip again?
$9.95 a person.
Not $9.95, guys.
Nope. We're not that good at making it affordable. No, $995 a person, all inclusive. You can drop us a deposit for $150, and that will hold your space on the trip.
Cool. And that's going to be, once again, once you get on that bus to the time you get off the bus, it covers all your food, lodging, everything, all your lunches, dinners, expenses of the Sleepy Hollow and visiting witches' cabins and witches' hole woods or whatever it was.
Witches' hole state forest.
Witches' hole state forest. Freaking, I love it. Like that honestly makes me feel like I want to go investigate that for like a documentary. I gotta like do some deep dive digging on why that is called that.
You got to check that out. There's some pretty cool stuff.
Oh, can't wait. Because one of the things with what I wanted to do is I was talking to the guys. I want to find like a place where like witches and like Satanists get together and do crazy stuff in the forest and like crash in on their party. Like I want to find something like that. So maybe that's the spot. I don't know.
It could be.
There's fun.
There's places like that in New Jersey too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I can't wait.
I'm sure there's places all over, but we'll check this one out, and I think it's going to be really cool. Spook Rock should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, the guys, these trips are a lot of fun, and we live in a country where we're not short any kind of legend. Yeah. I mean, going back to colonial times, there's just so much here. Mm-hmm. This is just really fun way to get to hang out with me to get to hang out with you guys on an extended period of time, doing some really fun stuff, learning along the way. It's just a great time, and hopefully you guys want to come and hang out with us.
Yeah, we want to do more of these. So as long as they keep going like they did last year with the Burn Bray, and if this one goes, we'll keep them coming because as Tony said, it's a huge amount of fun. Tony's with you, Jen and I are with you. You're in great hands on the trip, and we're going to have a great time.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, go check it out.
All right. Thank you.
And we're going to get to our interview, and I'm recording this, and I don't know who I'm putting up this week. So it's going to be a surprise, guys. Let's get to the interview. All right, here we go. All right, today we got Wade on the show. Wade, what's up, man?
Not much. How's it going?
Man, it's going. I was just telling you, I got a little sleepy here tonight, but I'm glad that, I'm at least awake enough to do the interview. Did I lose you?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. I had to change a setting on my audio, and recently I've been forgetting to set one part of my audio, and I thought I lost you. But anyways, Wade's here. Awesome. I'm not going to change anything. I'm not going to edit that out. I'm going to leave it in. So there we go. Wade, man, you're out there in Oregon, and you have you've seen some strange things in the sky and filmed it. And you sent me the video of what your girlfriend filmed. And I wanted to ask before we go too far into it, can I share that on the website?
Yeah, you can put it on there.
Okay, cool. So why don't you go into the experiences with the UFO, and then we'll get into some Bigfoot chatter.
Yeah, sounds good. So it was early, I believe in January. She walked outside to go up to the barn and heard this humming noise. And she always liked to look up at the stars and everything. Well, she saw these twinkling lights in a triangle shape. So she got out her phone and filmed it. It's not very long, but it only hung out for a few seconds, and then it just kind of vanished almost. That was pretty much it on that one. She came inside, told me about it, tried to get me to go outside, but I didn't want to see it. And then, well, I think it was 2 weeks later. We're heading into town. It was dark outside. Got about a mile down the road, and we both seen some twinkling lights in a triangle pattern. She kind of looked over at me and goes, "You see that?" And I go, "Yeah." And when we were driving, we sat there and watched it. And I slowed down so we can get a better view at it. And it just hovered above the treetops. I want to say it was only a few hundred feet off the ground, but it was massive. And then it just hovered there, and we drove out of sight. And when we came back from town, it was gone.
So how far a time frame was this from when she first filmed the triangle in the sky?
It was within 2 weeks.
Okay. And generally the same area?
Yeah, it was just a mile west of where we live.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, from the crow flies, it's about a mile west.
So it wasn't the exact same location?
No, the second one was not.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, when you showed me the video, I was looking at it, and I see that the three lights that form the triangle, but then did you see how like it branches off down a little bit too with like I think it was like 2 or 3 different lights?
Yeah, there's a few on the bottom of it. It looked like.
Yeah, it looked like there was more to the craft than what we were seeing. Almost like it gave me a sense that like when you first hit play on the video, you see these 3 lights that are flickering, and they look like a triangle. And then the one side almost extends down with more lights, and it makes you feel like, oh, there might be something here that's even bigger than what you're thinking initially.
Yeah, it's big. It's kind of hard to judge from the, being in the sky, but I want to say it's like 100 yards long almost. Yeah, I mean, it like the size of a football field.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't anything tiny, that's for sure. I mean, it reminded me with what you just said about the size of a football field. It almost reminded me of like a mothership, like the something out of like, I don't know, Independence Day or something, where it's like releasing all these little smaller ships and stuff. And I was just like, dang, I don't know if I saw something like that and stuff, I would hope that I had enough wherewithal to film it like your girlfriend did.
Yeah, I don't. I try to ignore the stuff, but it's kind of hard. She's really into all of that and points it out and makes me think about it more. And I told her that night, I'm just going to bed.
Not interested, huh?
No.
So, all right. And when we were talking earlier, you were saying you were driving back from somewhere. I think you said like one of the Dakotas or Colorado or something like that. And you were about to tell me a story.
Yeah. So it was this year, or it was 2020. I went up to seeing a buddy that was stationed up in Minot, North Dakota. And I was driving back across Montana, and I was west of Billings somewhere and going through a canyon. And I just happened to glance up. It's like 2:00 in the morning. And I seen this. It was a solid light kind of hovering, and it looked pretty high. And it kind of went left to right. And then you could watch almost like a light trail dart off in the sky, and then it was just gone.
So you saw that you've had experiences with UFOs. When it comes to this kind of stuff, I mean, the government says that they're in possession of things that were not made here on Earth. When you see those kind of things, do you correlate that to more alien or maybe man-made?
Well, when we see it, I think it moves too quick to be man-made. I don't think we have the technology to make something that fast and that nimble in the air. We might, but even with that triangle craft, it was so big. I don't see how we can make that hover like it does and be next to zero noise.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense unless they have technology that we just aren't privy to it yet. At least yet, I would say. I always think that the government's a couple decades ahead of us in technology.
Yeah, they probably are. I obviously there's a lot we don't know that they know, and they probably just won't ever tell us.
Yeah, not until it's obsolete for them. So it's like we got iPhones, and they're probably like, yeah, we had that back in the '60s, bro. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I understand it. I mean, I don't know if other people get upset about that stuff, but I mean, the technology that they have is probably also utilized as a weapon, and they don't want other people to know about it. So I kind of get it. But you're not the only one that's seen, crazy things like that in the sky, especially with the light trails. I've heard that several times. It kind of reminds me of orbs as well, because they do similar things, where they're moving around, they leave like these light trails and stuff. Kind of makes you wonder sometimes how these things correlate back and forth to, between topics and categories. So that's the UFO stuff. Now I want to get into this Bigfoot stuff. You have had 3, possibly 4 different types of Bigfoot encounters, and if you could walk us into the first time and kind of walk us through the chronological order of how this all happened for you. I mean, are you a Bigfoot investigator, or is this just some random stuff that happened for you?
No, this is just random stuff that just happened. So I guess we'll walk into it. So when I grew up in the Willamette Valley area, and my dad died when I was young, so I'd go up and see my mom's dad all the time. I called him Papa. And he lived up in the coastal range outside of Philomath, Oregon. And he had probably 10 acres out there in the woods, no one around. And he set up a motion sensor light at his gate and then put a light on the property where he could see it go off when he's sitting in his chair at night. And this was in September. I think I must have been around 10, and down there by the sensor, there was an old apple tree. And when that light would go off, I'd grab the spotlight and see what deer were in or what was coming in. So one night it went off and he's asleep in his chair. So I just got up, grabbed the spotlight, shined it out there. And what I seen was this big black mass just running across the driveway and just darted into the woods. Couldn't get a good look at it because it was, I think the apple tree was like 200 yards from the house. And when you hit it with the light, it almost like absorbed the light. Like you couldn't really light it up. So all you seen was a tall bipedal mass walking across the driveway. It was like 2-3 strides and it was gone.
So this thing, I mean, 200 yards away, I mean, it's pretty far away as far as trying to judge, size and everything. But by judging the surroundings and stuff, did you get a decent idea as to how big we were talking about here?
Being 10 and it being so far away, it's hard to say. The fence was, I believe, 5 foot tall, and it was over the fence there. So 7, maybe 8 feet, if I were to guess.
Okay. And is this something that, is like maybe a common thing going on around there, or is this like a one-off thing for you and the family?
It was a one-off thing for me. My mom always joked about it. She's like, because I go up there almost every weekend. She'd say, "Don't let Bigfoot get you." It's kind of like a joke, and I always brushed it off. But we ran around there when we were kids, like nothing ever happened. And until that instance, I didn't think twice of it.
Interesting. And remind me, what was the purpose of the spotlight to begin with? What were you doing?
We would use it to look at the deer that were down there eating the apples at night, or if coyotes came across or something like that.
And so you're out there just spotting, and that happens. Do you think it was out there for the deer or something like that?
I think it was pulling the apples off the tree. It was about that time of year where the apples are starting to get ripe or getting close to. Gotcha.
Yeah, well, you know what? I know they freaking like apples. I've heard that plenty of times. People actually try feeding them apples. So the fact that you have apple trees is, it's like a buffet.
Yeah, definitely. And it was that winter. They normally don't get a lot of snow up there. So I think we had 8 inches up there. And he liked to go to breakfast in town every morning. So we'd leave at like 5 o'clock in the morning to go down to town. And I noticed where his driveway's cut in, there's a little bank on the side. And I saw these big impressions in the snow. And so on the way back, when it was daylight, we were driving by him, and I got a quick kind of glance in the snow. And I told him, I go, "Papa, that's a big footprint right there." He goes, "No, there's no Bigfoot or anything. That's all lies, just tales." So I got him to go back and look at it. He told me, "Oh, it's just a bear track." But you could see the 5 toe impressions, and it was probably 15, 16 inches long.
And this is still when you were around 10 years old?
Yeah, this was that winter, because I seen that figure run across in the fall or late summer, early fall. And then it was that winter, probably December, January.
Now, did you ever tell him about what you saw run across?
I kind of mentioned it, and he was very old school, kind of like, you didn't see it. You probably just thought you seen something, or a bear run across or something. And I told him, I go, "I was too tall for a bear." He goes, they'll stand up on their legs.
So this was on its hind legs that you saw the run, and it was running.
Yeah, it was more walking. It had a long stride, but you could see an arm swing. And I don't think when a bear stands up on his back legs, it doesn't swing its arms.
Yeah, I actually don't. I don't think so either. Because I'm in the Philadelphia area, and for years there was a bear. I forget the name of the bear, but it was known locally because I guess there was something wrong with it, and it had to walk on its hind legs everywhere it went, and it kind of like more waddled than had a stride, and it from what I remember, it didn't wave its arms back and forth like a Bigfoot would.
Yeah, I don't think they're capable. I don't think their front legs work like that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Now, I mean, I understand where your grandfather's coming from with the idea of a bear print, because I know there's been people who will, they'll find tracks, and it turns out that the bear's front paw overlaps with the back paw and makes an extended print, and it looks like it's a giant footprint. So, I mean, that could be explained that way, but judging by what you saw not too far in time-wise, since you saw that footprint, you saw this thing walking across, and it's like, you put 2 and 2 together, it's easy to imagine that maybe this is the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was pretty young. The track could have been a bear track. But from what I could see, I mean, it was in the snow. We had like 6 to 8 inches. You couldn't see any claw marks from it stepping down and sinking into the snow, but you could see the toe impressions in the heel.
Gotcha. Interesting. So that was when you were 10. Where do we go from here when it comes to Bigfoot, man? I mean, was there a big span of time, or was it still in your youth?
It was still in my youth. So it was when I was 12 and I was first able to get my hunting license. and we ran across the road to his brother's house, which is probably 2 miles away. And there's a bunch of logging up there, and we were elk hunting. So it was mid-November, and we went up to a clear cut, and we were up there scoping the area out, and I grabbed some binoculars, and something kept catching my eye. It was because they just cleared this area probably 2 or 3 years before. So there was a little brush growing back up, but there was a stump out there, and it just looked too big and awkward. And it was dark, like it was burnt. And so it kept catching my eye. And so I kept going back, looking at it, and it wouldn't move. But when you look through it with your binoculars, you can kind of see like where the arms were tucked in and where the head was hunched down. And that was probably 400, 500 yards away. And I didn't have good binoculars at the time, so I couldn't get a good look at it. But from what I could see, it looked like a big man, all in black, just hunched over and almost in like the fetal position, like it wasn't trying to be moved or seen.
Did you have anybody else look through the binoculars at it?
No, because at that point I was with my papa and his brother, and with that first one, he shrugged it off and said, "Oh, they're not real. You saw something else." And so I just kind of kept looking, and then we went back up there the following weekend, and I looked for that same stump, and I couldn't find it because we parked on the same spot on top of the hill where they had the yarder at, and I couldn't find that stump to save my life.
Man, that's almost, I don't know, that's almost chilling to think about, you know? I mean, it's like you go back and that stump's gone, and it kind of confirms your suspicions to begin with. Because, I mean, it sounds like on your first sight of it, you were thinking it could be a Sasquatch.
Yeah, at that point, I didn't really know what Bigfoot was, but I knew of the tails and everything. But I wouldn't have thought of anything. Like I said, I thought it was a stump again, but you could kind of see the arms and where the head was tucked down. And when we went back up there, it wasn't there again.
It makes you wonder, how many times these things are around and we just don't notice it because of them kind of blending into surroundings. Like your brain automatically connects dots with association, so like if you're not thinking Bigfoot, you have no interest in it, you're not looking for it or whatever. If you're just looking through the binoculars, I could see how somebody could just look right over that and not even think twice that it was a stump.
Yeah, it's easy to do. I've caught myself like double taking on stumps now because where I live, there's a lot of forest fires and everything. So you'll get trees that are burnt and broke off like 8 feet tall or whatever, and so you do a double glance, but it's just a burnt tree, and that's pretty much what it looked like at the time. But what confirmed it, like you said, was it was gone the following time we went up.
And I mean, I don't think this is the case, but there's no chance somebody decided to take the stump away. I mean, it sounds like it wasn't in an area that's really makes much sense.
No, I wouldn't think so, because they were done logging in there a few years before, and I didn't see any sign of equipment coming in, or why. That's all real steep ground, so they got to use yarders, and you can't get machines down there. So unless somebody went down there and cut the stump off, that'd be the only thing I could think of.
Interesting. Wow. All right. So actually, let me just go with this. What's your next experience here?
When we were up wood cutting this last fall. So we went up, it was in October, and we went up towards, Three Creeks Lakes, if anybody's familiar with Central Oregon. And we went up there to cut some wood. And this is where it gets a little weird, because my girlfriend's really into the subject. I don't like to talk about it a whole lot or, be looking for something. And I heard one of Wes's, the Les Stroud one, where they talk about mind speak. And so I was like, you know what? She really wants to see something. I go, what's it going to hurt to try the mind speak thing? Like, it could be possible. And so we got up there and I just kind of thought, like, hey, if one of you are out here, come out and maybe we can see you in the distance or something. And we were cutting wood and my girlfriend stopped me. She goes, I hear a dog barking. I go, oh, it probably, a lot of people like to walk up there with their dogs and everything. But it was I stopped and listened for a little bit and it was a weird bark. It was real deep. Woof, woof. And it just sounded strange. And so we finished up cutting a couple logs there. And then we were down in a little draw. We moved up the draw and I was sitting there looking at the map on trying to find a new spot to cut wood. And something in my head just told me to look up the hill. And when I looked up towards the top of the hill at the skyline, there was a old growth ponderosa pine tree there. And next to it was this real big figure. You can see that the outline of the head, and then you can kind of see a little bit of the outlines of where the hands ended. And I looked at it, I looked away, and I go, it's just a tree stump. And so I kept looking at the map a little bit. And I looked back up there and I just kept staring and staring, and you can kind of see it because it was skylighted. And you could see the light in between the tree and the figure was less and then more and less and more, like it was swaying back and forth. And at that point, something like fear took over. And so I put the map down and I said, oh, we got to go. We'll find somewhere different. And I didn't even tell her about it until, probably 2 months after the fact. And we took off out of there and I drove like 15 miles in the opposite direction and finished cutting wood for the day. So,
man, you had an intention in your head when you went out there, whether, they listened to your thoughts or whatever. You had an intention to, because she wants to see one that, I'd like to see one today. You see something and you didn't tell her. Was she mad at you?
Yeah, she was really mad. She's still mad to this day about it. And fear took over. Like, I had to get out of there. Like, it was just strange. Like, once I kind of realized what it could be and that it was actually moving, and it was big. Like, if I were to guess, it looked like 9 feet tall, and the shoulders, it looked like a 55-gallon drum was sitting there. Like, it was just huge.
And so you said it was like up on a ridge line, right?
Yeah, it was up on the ridge line. And in that area, we have some sparse manzanita bush, and they weren't real tall in there. We had a fire come through probably like 5 years before all this, and kind of thinned it out. So the brush wasn't real tall, and it was pretty open through there. You could see a ways. You could probably see 100 yards, 150 yards into the woods, but it was right there on the skyline with nothing behind it, right next to that old growth tree.
Interesting. So how far away was this roughly? A couple 100 yards?
We were probably a couple 100 yards.
Okay. Now, before we started recording, you had suggested that it seems like you believe that there's something supernatural about these things. Is it because of how that day unfolded for you that leaves you with that conclusion?
Yeah, it's almost weird because it seems like when you think about something like that, or you try to talk to them, like it showed up, like it hurt us, and then it made that dog barking noise. And then as soon as we could hear stuff out in the woods, but I figured it was somebody out there walking through the trees or whatever with their dogs. But when we moved and seen it, that just kind of like, it's been watching us. And that whole time we were in there, I had a feeling like something was in there watching us. But like I said, I figured it was somebody up there walking their dog. And probably not Bigfoot related, but we were at the house, and this was after the sighting. It was probably December. And we were in the kitchen, and my right ear just started ringing real bad, like put me down on my knees almost. And I rubbed it real hard, and it kind of went away. And I heard a voice that wasn't my own voice in my head. And it said, "We're here." And that's all I heard. And then the following evening, I was looking, we live on just under 10 acres, and there's 12 acres in between me and the neighbor. And there's ponderosa trees and juniper trees throughout there. So you can't see their house or anything. But I saw what looked like a man in dark clothing walking away. And this was as I was walking through the kitchen. I just glanced out the window. And when I stepped back and did a double take, it was just gone. And I asked my girlfriend the next day, I go, "Hey, I seen something out there. See if there's any tracks." So we had a couple inches of snow. And there was nothing out there. And that's what kind of leads me to, like, if that was a Bigfoot, like, there's something more to him, or it could have been paranormal, or I could have just been seeing something.
And when you saw that was after the ears ringing?
Yeah, that was the next day after is when I seen something walking out back away from the house. And it was like a split second. Like, I glanced out the window, caught my eye, but I kept walking, and I took a step back, and I looked back out there, and there was nothing. Okay. And this was about a month and a half after I seen the one when we were cutting wood.
So you preface the story with saying probably not Bigfoot related. Do you believe that, or are you just saying that as a protective measure because you're a little hesitant to make that kind of connection?
A little hesitant to make the connection because, like I said, it was so quick that you couldn't see what it was, and there was no footprints or anything in the snow.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting because I know there's infighting when it comes to this kind of stuff, but I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know how you explain away some of the things that people experience with Bigfoot when it comes to like finding tracks that just stop. I mean, you're following tracks, like Bigfoot tracks, and then they just stop and disappear. And it makes you wonder why and how that's even possible. And if that's happening to other people, then I don't know. Maybe one of these maybe these things are some kind of paranormal creature, not just a physical in the woods. It would explain a lot of the mysterious nature about them, even down to not being able to catch them on video and audio, and the seemingly elusiveness of them all. Do you lean that direction, that these things are more along the lines of a supernatural, paranormal type category than a physical? Or do you kind of, because I personally feel like, I think that they're a mixture of both, to be honest with you. And I'm just curious, because you've seen a lot more than I've seen in my life, what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I feel like they're physical, but I don't feel like they're from here originally. Like they can phase in and out when they want to. Because there's a bunch of weird things where they're there and then just gone. And how do you hide something that big in some of these sightings? Or like I said, we live out. It's pretty open between the neighbor's house and ours. The only reason we can't see the neighbor's house is because the the juniper trees, but it was like a clear path of where I seen it. And we don't have any trees out there that are much bigger than like 14 inches across. We don't have big trees out here.
So if they're not from here, where do you think? I mean, are you talking like extraterrestrial or interdimensional? What are your thoughts there?
That's where I go back and forth, because you hear a lot of native stories about them being here, but you hear so many stories about UFOs with Bigfoot, and how you'll see a UFO and then all of a sudden a Bigfoot will appear. Or even like with the orbs, you'll see an orb and then like there'll be a Bigfoot encounter right there with it. So I don't know if it's more just interdimensional or if there's a correlation between the two.
Yeah, and I understand your thought process on that. A couple of years ago, not a couple of years ago, I say a couple of years ago, like I just started the show a couple of years ago. It's been a while. When I first started the show, like 5 years ago, I had come across a guy who had just kind of popped on the scene. His name's Emery Smith. Now he's a pretty popular guy now. I think he's on Gaia TV and things like that. But when he first started sharing his experience, he started talking about how he was a biologist and he would, do limited, most of the time, like extraction of biological matter of extraterrestrial. It was like his job. His job was to do these things within the military. And I think he might have even been part of like a 20 and back kind of situation. But he talks about how seeing different types of extraterrestrial beings. He talks about, people have heard about the praying mantis type, the grays and things like that. But one that he said was that I guess, I can't remember if he said it caught him off guard or, it was accurate or whatever. But he described seeing an extraterrestrial creature that looked like Chewbacca from Star Wars. And the person he was talking to never brought up Bigfoot or Sasquatch, and my ears perked up. I was like, wait a second, what? And then got my gears turning and thinking about all the like you said, the experiences people have where they see UFO and then Bigfoot come in during that experience, or they have a Bigfoot experience and then they see a UFO. And it's like, hold on a second. Could these things be not from here, literally? And I don't know. But it's interesting. It's really interesting. And I actually reached out to him to have him on the show, and he said he would, and then he just ghosted me. He ghosted me. I couldn't believe it. I was like, come on, bro. But yeah, I mean, now he won't return my messages, but it's okay. I forgive him. And if he wants to come on the show, he can. So, but I'll tell you, man, it's one of those things where it really gets you thinking about what these things are. The seemingly paranormal things that they're capable of doing, not just the mind speak, but the almost like seemingly disappearing, to the idea of them possibly being extraterrestrial. It does seem though they have abilities and access to things that we might identify as not possible. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. It's just some strange things that happen, especially with the mind speak and like when the footprints just end. I think there was a story I've heard before or read somewhere where they followed him in a field with snow and they just vanished out of nowhere. Yeah,
that's a common thing that happens a lot of times, that people they can't find the tracks, they just die off. Now you're talking about this mind speak you experienced. Now, let me ask you this: it doesn't sound like you have, but have you ever experienced that before or after that one time?
No, I've never. That was the first time, and it was strange. It caught me off guard really bad, and I tried to like almost stop it. And looking back, I wish I would have let more happen if it was going to happen, if that makes sense. I don't know if it was done or if I just like forced it out of my head.
So let's take Bigfoot off the table. Have you ever thought about what that could have been if it wasn't Bigfoot?
Yeah, I've tried to think about it, and I believe in like ghosts and everything, and I guess it could have been a man out there that was almost in a solid form walking away. And then when I look back, it just phased out. But other than that, like I said, there was a little bit of snow on the ground, and there was no footprints out there. Not any boot prints, not footprints, not anything.
No, I mean the mind speak. Have you?
Oh,
I mean, let's put Bigfoot aside, and you have this experience with mind speak. Let's take Bigfoot out of the equation. Have you ever thought about what else that could have been if it wasn't Bigfoot?
No, I haven't thought that deep into it. I don't know what would try to connect and say I'm here. And like I said, I don't know.
Me neither. I was just asking. It's my job. I have to ask a question. So I was just curious. Yeah, I mean, because it's actually quite a convenient timeline to run with when it comes to this idea of it possibly being Bigfoot, because of what you experienced. I think you said like a month before, actually. And you almost did your own version of mind speak where you just thought it out. If you're here, show yourself today, and it happened. Now let's bring Bigfoot back on the table. If it was Bigfoot that did that to you with the mind speak, do you think it followed you then?
Not the one that I seen, at least, because the figure I seen behind the house, it looked like a normal, like full grown man size, maybe like 6 foot, not real wide, just like a normal person size. So if it was Bigfoot, maybe it was a younger one or a different one. Because we don't live that far from National Forest. You literally just jump across the highway and you're in National Forest. And there's only a few houses along that side of the road where you'd have to go through.
All right. So if it's not the one that you saw, do you think that the mind speak then was a result of you being out there, though? I mean, if it was a different one, do you think that experience you had with the mind speak would have happened if you didn't do what you did months before?
I don't think so. But that's where it comes into that kind of the woo, because there was no trace of anything ever being there. And that kind of what leads me to be on the side of they're like interdimensional, and they can phase in and out and chose to be seen when they want to be. Yeah,
well, I wouldn't argue with you on that. I've heard too many people talk about the similar things to, for me, it doesn't make me uncomfortable to talk like this. And I never totally understood why some people have such an aversion to going down this road and considering the idea that there's more to Bigfoot than just a hairy creature walking around in the woods we just can't find. And it sounds like you kind of lean in that direction as well, that there's paranormal, supernatural aspect to these things, but you have seen them at the same time, so they're physical. Do you think that they could be both physical and supernatural at the same time? Is that what you're kind of leaning towards?
Yeah, I think they can be supernatural and physical at the same time. I think they do eat. I think they do breathe and have children, and possibly I think you could kill one at the right time if you caught it off guard. I think in their physical state, you can harm them just like anything else.
I agree. And I think the same thing about Dogman. I think if anything is going to be, I feel like I just get the sense that if one of those two topics is going to be a more supernatural type being than the other, I think Dogman would be that, because man, those things just maybe it's just my preconceived notions. They just seem so terrifyingly scary that if you told me they were demonic, I'd say, yeah, I believe that. I definitely believe that. they sound terrifying. Yeah. What are your thoughts about Dogman since you've had these experiences with the Bigfoot? I mean, do you think that's possible about Dogman?
Yeah, I think it could be possible. I've heard stories of them on some podcasts, and I almost get the sense that they're more demonic, like they're put here to terrorize people, and that's their only goal, is to terrorize people.
Well, listen, man, I appreciate you sharing your stories and stuff, and it seems like Bigfoot has been popping in and out of your life. I mean, you're in your mid-20s and stuff, so it's been about 15 years since your first experience to last. Do you think that going forward in life that there's going to be a trend of this, or do you think that this is just so random for you that you're not totally expecting to ever see anything like that again?
I'm hoping it's just random and I don't have to see it again. I spent a lot of time in the woods, and I'd rather not see one and enjoy the woods than have to see them and then not want to come out and enjoy the nature and everything.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have the same similar sentiments to that whole idea. I mean, people really enjoy nature, and when they really enjoy nature, they typically don't want to feel like they're gonna come across these things very often, if at all. But yeah, man, Wade, listen, I really appreciate you sharing your stories.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Well, that's the show, everybody. I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy it, please share the show with your friends. I don't care where or how you share the show. Just share the show if you enjoyed it, because that's the best thing you can do to help the show grow. Thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in this week. And until next week, stay safe, take care, and remember, the truth will set you free.
Push me down and I'll go high.